All right. How are you guys doing? Um, Welcome to the live stream today. This one was originally scheduled for last week, but they were doing construction outside my house and it was really noisy, so I rescheduled it. But we're gonna paint this cat today, and I have his photo on my iPad right here in front of me, and yeah, so I'll just go through how I do it. So this is my cat. His name is Drizzle. But actually, before we do that, I just wanted to make a quick announcement, which is I'm still working on my fairy coloring book. I have this inked page. Obviously, it's not all the way inked. It's partly inked. And it's going to have about 10 pages, and it's free to anyone that signs up for my email list before June 30th. So that is available. It should be available in the description of this video if you want to sign up for that. So make sure to do that. But let's go ahead and start painting. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this brush. It's a Princeton Neptune big quill brush, and it holds a lot of water. And what usually works for me pretty well with pet portraits is starting with the shadows, and I'm going to wet it a little, just slightly. It's a hot, dry summer here, so that's going to make some of what I am about to do bleed around the page. And as you can see, I already have leftover paint on my palette. I'm just gonna mix it all together. Is that what I'm gonna do? I think so. I might add a little blue in. Drizzle is a really gray cat, and the background of this is pretty gray also. But yeah, so it's going to be, I guess, kind of monotone. I actually already painted him once, and I did the background red, and it just didn't work. And I think it's because Drizzle's personality is not, he's kind of like a, I don't know, slow, methodical, quiet cat, and the red just didn't match his personality. Okay, so I have this gray on here that's basically just a mixture of what I already had, and it's pretty light. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to it to just like make it a little cooler. Although on the photo I can see I'm gonna add a little red to it. I just barely said red didn't match Drizzle's personality. Yeah. Actually, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give myself options. So, warmer shadow color over here. That was cadmium red that I just added. And I'm gonna do cooler shadow color over here. And that was cobalt blue. So we have kind of a grayish blue, and it's more just a warm gray now. So I have a warm gray and a cool gray, and they're really watery and light. And I'm just gonna, looking at the photo, go in and start painting some of the shadows. So using the warmish. And just like I did with that fairy painting, I think it was 2 weeks ago, but we want the shadows to be connected. And because he's fuzzy I'm gonna use my little spray bottle to kind of like help that along. This is like I got this at Hobby Lobby, but it's kind of, I feel like a quilter's spray bottle. It kind of gives like a mist instead of a stream or whatever. And I kind of like it a lot for this, and it makes these cool shapes in the watercolor. So I'm just going to let that kind of do its thing. And there's a light right in here. I'm going to leave that. Work our way down. So I found when doing pet portraits that starting with the shadow really works for me, especially when the cat or the dog or whatever it is has a lot of coloring in their coat. So if they're very spotty, or you know, like a calico cat or tabby or whatever it is, it's hard to see the lights and darks because they have all of this coloring that's like obscuring the form. And so when I go in and really look at like just the shadows, and then it seems it works to add the spots, patches of color later. Drizzle has a white tuxedo chest, so that's there, but it does have shadows on it, so I'm gonna paint them. But also making sure to save the spots that are widest. And he has a little bit of white right on his chin. Add a little spray. So the warm spot in my photo, in the shadow, his shadow, is back here. So I think it's the lighting in the photo. The light from here is coming from a window, and there's light from here coming from a overhead light in the room. So I'm just gonna make that warmer. Gives it a little variation. And he's kind of a long hair cat, and he's fluffy. So I'm just gonna let the water bottle spray kind of, there we go, fade out over there. Over here, I'm gonna get it pretty wet. So Drizzle also, he's not missing his ears, but he, not when he was a kitten, but when he was pretty young, a year old maybe, he had ear hematomas, which is like a bruise in your ear. And I guess animals can get it if they like shake their heads too vigorously, which he does. And So he had it in both ears, not at almost, not quite at the same time, but close. And anyway, so we took him to the vet, and I also did a lot of like reading online what it was, and like, anyway, so on the one ear, the one that's you can't see at all, the vet did an operation to like drain the hematoma, and it shriveled the ear up pretty much completely. Like it's still there, but it's like a little shriveled, poor little shriveled ear. And then on the next one, I was kind of like, that didn't really help the ear. The risk of it is apparently animals can get infections if the hematoma isn't treated. But anyway, I was like, okay, that vet visit was expensive, and I don't think it really actually helped that much. So the other ear, we let it heal on its own, and that was so much better. As you can see, it's a little shrivelly, that ear, but he still has, like, it still sticks up. So anyway, this is not medical advice for your cat, but that was our experience with ear hematomas, was that letting it get better on its own was better. Anyway, just watch, make sure they don't get infected. Honestly, like, obviously there's a risk of infection if you slice it open and drain it, which is basically what the vet did. So yeah, that's why he doesn't have ears. Back here, it's still wet, so have some fun with it. So I'll keep the shadow on the more cool side as I come around to this side where the light from the window is hitting. I'm keeping it really soft so that he looks fuzzy and cat-like. Okay. That's basically the shadow. Seems like I got a little bit too much paint right here. Lift a little bit of it out slightly. And you can see it kind of gives structure to what we're looking at. Add a little more shadow into the white fluffy part of his hair. So this is the type of thing where those lessons where you go to art class and they make you sketch a ball with light shining on it and talk about like the highlight and the halftone. That's useful for this because that's kind of what we're dealing with, is like a ball with more balls. his this like roundness around his mouth and his head, and there's light coming down. So you get those like highlights, halftones, cast shadows, all of that. Okay, so the next thing that's gonna make him stand out, well, let me debate. Yeah, I think what we'll do is add the background in, because that's gonna define some of these areas where the highlight is hitting and make it look more like light is hitting his face. So it's not going to be red. I think we'll go with a little bit of a greenish color. So I don't want it to be too green. It'll be grayish green. So it might make it look like he's outside a bit, but. So this is Daniel Smith Undersea Green that I'm mixing. And I'm gonna mix it with the cobalt. Which makes a nice color. And pulling it to this other side, mixing it with some of the stuff that's already there, makes it a little grayer. And I'm gonna add a little bit of red, because that tones down the green. Okay, so I'm just gonna have the background be abstract. So I sprayed it lightly, not a ton. The paper that I'm using is Bao Hong paper, which I've only started using a few months ago, but I really like it. And it's rough texture, so you can get cold press, hot press, and rough usually with watercolor paper. This one is rough. Rough is also new. I started using it recently. One of the things that's fun about it is how easy it is to get these like sparkly bits of paper showing through when you paint. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of green in, green paint. Give it some variation. And make this edge soft. So the background is bleeding into the cat a bit, but I'm gonna let it, I think. We'll see what happens. Add in a little blue. Oh, that was a lot of blue. So it's not just one green color that I mixed right at the beginning, I'm changing it up as I go. So it adds like some nice variation to what we've got. So I'm saving out some light highlights right here. He's got these little ear hairs that come up. Dang it. Just dropped my brush. And right here, I think I'm going to do what I did before with the hair. Just let it bleed together. Leave some sparkly whites showing through, but not too much, because we don't want it to draw attention. Okay, right here. In the photo, his hair is really soft. It basically fades into the carpet. So I'm just gonna go with that. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. You can see like it added that light. Now it looks like he has light on his face, which is fun. Okay, we need to let it dry for a second. Before we go into the next thing, which will probably be a little more detail. Yeah. We'll probably switch brushes. So I'm going to set this one down, and as I said before, I usually let them dry flat, because if you leave them like this, the wet will ruin them faster, or like bleed down in, and at least that's what I was taught. So I let them dry. I just leave them flat while they're drying. And I'm going to switch to this brush, which you can't see the writing. It's a silver black velvet number 12 round, and I like it because it comes to a nice point. And we can start mixing some color while we're waiting for this to dry. So if you guys are watching later and you have questions, you can always ask them below about what I'm doing, and yeah, I'll answer them. And I just noticed I saved all these white hairs right here. The same thing is happening over here, and I did not save them. So at the end, I'll put them back in with either white paint or maybe scratch it out with a X-Acto knife. So we'll see. And that's how I'll do this, the whiskers. Drizzle has these really long whiskers. And I'll either paint them in later or scrape them out. Okay, so I think the next thing we want to do is his eyes. It works out pretty good because they're greenish gold. I have this like little tiny bit of residual paint. So I'm gonna mix into that. Basically the same colors I used in the background, plus my warm yellow, which I think is Hansa yellow, I think. Not positive. Okay, so being careful not to put my hand in anything wet. I'm gonna go in and paint that. So looking at the photo, it's lighter on one side, so I've got more water in my brush. And then I'm gonna add paint and bring it across. I'm gonna go right over the pupil because it's dark, but save a highlight. And right into that shadow that I painted before. The dry brush, lift out some of the paint and just with a little bit more saturated color, I'm gonna go in to kind of got this pretty thick yellow green, and I'm just gonna drop it in there. It's gonna add some extra color. And then the other eye, in the light, it looks a lot more bluish. Saving the highlight. This eye doesn't have as much. I think it's just because in the light, you don't see as much color in there. But we'll add a little. Okay. So we got that. So now I feel like this is the harder part because I have to decide how to proceed. And what we're gonna do is just kind of go in and start adding detail to the face. Are we gonna do that? If you guys have questions while we're going, you can go ahead and ask. I'll definitely watch the chat as we go. But okay. I think what we need to do, well, I'm debating, because I left all this highlight. Some of that should stay white, but some of it is, he's a gray cat, so it needs to be more gray. So I think what we're going to do is, back to my big brush, the Princeton Neptune, use the gray and basically like paint the cat gray. But again, not everywhere. We want to save a lot of the white areas that we saved before. Unfortunately, my gray paint is gone. So it doesn't need to be very dark, I don't think. We're going to add a lot of darks later. So I'm like, maybe this is good. I'm not sure. So with the cobalt blue and cadmium red, mixing a gray, a little more blue to it. I do want it to be on the cooler side. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do, instead of painting the shadows, I'm going to leave the highlights highlighty. Leave the whites white. And I'm going to go right over the shadows. They should still show through. Looks so dark. It's going to dry a lot lighter. And we're going to add a lot of other darks. So I think it's right, the color that we have. On the YouTube thumbnail or the title, I can't remember which, said we were going to paint a loose and lovely cat painting. I think there's part of me that's like, I hope we are. I hope we're going to be painting that. So I'm adding these grays in, but being really careful to still save any light areas. So we don't want to lose that sense of light. And the spray bottle's helping keep that fuzzy texture. Just by misting it and letting it kind of do its thing. His nose is gray. And it's actually quite a bit darker than a lot of the areas on his fur. Just let that bleed in. So it's starting to look kind of weird because now we have all this darkness on the light side. We definitely want to add that to the dark side. And in his ear, he's got there's a lot of warmth showing through, so put that in. Don't want to lose our lights right there. And this part of him is really dark. This is where most of the shadow is. And I'll emphasize that probably a little later. And then as we get down here, I think I want this to be not super detailed. So I'm out of paint almost. I should have mixed more, I guess. So probably do a little bit of splattering here. Okay. Hopefully hopefully that didn't kill it. Some right here. Hi, Drizzle. He just came into the room. So if Drizzle had a lot of spots, that is probably the stage right there where I would have started painting some, I think. I mean, every picture is different, but because it's so wet right here, a lot of those just kind of blended in. Okay, I'm gonna give it a few seconds to dry, and then we're gonna just work on the face. Okay, so mixing color, we will not make that mistake where I run out. I'm gonna watch this because as it dries, we might be able to add a little bit more like texture in. We'll see. Okay, so I think we'll just go with the same colors I used before, which is cadmium red and cobalt. And then that makes a nice purpley color, grayish purple, but that's not quite what I want. And yeah, so we're gonna add a little bit of the green, undersea green. See what we get. That's too much. That's okay. We need more anyway. It's looking too blue-green right now. Add more red. And I'm keeping it pretty thick. You can see it's a lot thicker than the paint I had before because it's going to be darker. But we still kind of want a pretty good sized puddle. Okay, I think that's probably pretty good color for Drizzle. Okay. I don't want him to look spotty, but hopefully that'll blend a bit. I am switching to my Silver Black Velvet number 8 round, and we're just gonna go in and start doing detail. With basically this one color, but I'll probably add to it as we change it up as I go. So starting on the eye. Oh, apparently I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. Okay, starting on the eye. This part, you want it to be dry. It's pretty dry. Otherwise it will start bleeding everywhere, which I wanted before, but now we don't. He's got this dark shadow. It's not an outline. So I had the paint rinsed off my brush. It's basically just water. I'm pulling it in. Same thing over here. And I'm grabbing a little red. I'm warming that up over here on the side. So like he's got these just around the eye the hair is thinner and I can see some like warmth there. Sorry. So that's what the red did. It's like it's still very gray, but warmed it up. Keeping the texture nice and furry. Like this part is going to take a lot longer than everything we've done so far. The pupil, I have this pretty dark color mixed, but I want it even darker. So I think using the exact same combo, just even thicker paint. And I do have a little bit of neutral tint, so I'm going to add that. I'm pretty sure that was neutral tint. I'm like, maybe it was Payne's Gray. I can't remember now. It has a bit of a bluish to it, so it's probably Payne's Gray. Okay, so that made it nice and dark. So we're gonna paint the pupil. I'm gonna let it bleed, emphasizing the shadow right here. Keeping it fuzzy as I do brush strokes. That's why this like pointy brush is nice. I could use like a liner, but they don't hold that much water. This one comes to a nice point. It's starting to wear out though. Need to replace it. And when I want it even more pointy, I have the 6 and the 4, which are both really good and still hold more water. Maybe I'll use this. So this is the 4. For almost an hour. It's gonna take me longer than that to finish this. So you can see his eyes kind of coming to life, or his one eye. But basically, like, the rest of this is this painting in the hair, but I'm keeping focus only on the face and then a little bit in this shadowy area on the big shapes. You can leave a lot of this the way that it is. There's a dark cast shadow cast by his nose. This part is fun because it's sort of meditative and I don't know, just look at the photo, but don't overdo it. But not a lot of not a lot to say about it, I guess. It's also a little scary because you get these darks. So this right now looks like a big gash on his head, kind of. But hopefully as like you get the other darks in there, it won't look so weird. He's got this. Okay, I think we'll do the other eye and then be done for for the video. So I'm going to you got this shadow and these hairs come up. I'm grabbing my super dark pupil color. Go ahead and do the pupil on this side. There really isn't, there's not as much shadow on that one to paint, but we'll get some of the fur around. Leaving the lights though. think that just about does it right there. Okay, so that's what we'll do today, at least on the video. As I finish, there's a lot more shadow on this side of his face that I would paint in more detailed, and the texture on his muzzle, things like that. But that's basically the rest of the process, is looking at the photo and doing that, but not everywhere, just in the most important spots. So hopefully that helps and you guys enjoyed watching this, and don't forget to sign up for your fairy coloring book below before June 30th. So, all right, that's that. See you guys later.